Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark here for Leadership Conversations. This is the show where we talk about leadership according to the role that matters to you. And I wanted to quickly talk about leveraging your own skills as a leader. And we're on the show, we're always talking about how to leverage the skills of your team and how to influence them. And ultimately, that's what leadership is. It is about influence. But also, you got to learn how to influence yourself. And I want to talk about leveraging your skills. Now, in order to leverage yourself as a leader, you got to know number one, what you're good at. You got to know what skills you bring to the table. You got to know what you can do with your eyes closed, your hands tied behind your back, and both ankles shackled at the same time. And when you know that information, that does a number of things for you. One, it brings security to your leadership. You know what you can do and you know where you can shine. But it also highlights an opportunity to show to your team vulnerability. Teams sometimes look at leaders to say, hey, you're perfect. You got it going on. Just tell me what to do, boss, and I'll do it. And as a leader, that's not necessarily what you care about. That's not something you're focused on. What you concern yourself with more as a leader is how do you influence people to get from one point to the other. And when you're able to influence people that way, it's less about telling people what to do, but it's more about understanding what other people are good at, where they can be leveraged, and how you can motivate and inspire them, i.e., lead them, influence them to use what they got for the greater good of the team. But at the end of the day, when it comes to influencing and leveraging your own self, in order to do that type of coaching and supporting services and provide that type of support for your team, you too got to understand, my friend, what you're good at. You got to understand what you're contributing to the table. And this leads me to the second thing when it comes to leveraging your skills. You also got to know what you're bad at. You got to understand where your weaknesses are. Now, you try to come into a leadership situation as well rounded as possible, and that's important for you to do. But I would say that it's also important for you to know your weaknesses and to understand how to buffer those weaknesses. In some cases, you may employ the services of a team member. You may employ the subcontracted services of another organization or consultant to support you where you're weak. And there may be other things you may consider doing to kind of keep your weaknesses from hurting the team. But at whatever you decide to do to buffer your weaknesses, to support your weaknesses, you got to know what you're weak at. Again, when you point out your strengths and you point out your weaknesses, you're pointing out an opportunity for you to be a little bit vulnerable to your team because your team goes through the same things. They go through the ideas of thinking, man, I'm not good at this, but I'm good at that. And you're teaching them how to gracefully manage all of that at the same time. So if you know how to buffer your weaknesses, if you know how to leverage your strengths, you're learning how to leverage your leadership. And then this goes back to again a third point I want to point to you is putting all this together, putting this piece of the puzzle together because when you're building a team, you're building a team of people who are what they are and you're trying to take advantage of who what they are, what they do, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as a leader, you're constantly managing the good, bad, and ugly about you as well. But it requires you to put the pieces of that puzzle together to create the package people see. The good things about you makes you you. The bad things about you makes you you. The ugly things about you makes you you. And sometimes it brings highs, it brings lows, and it keeps the team stagnant. But at the end of the day, when you put that puzzle together, you have this unique version of a person, which is you as a leader. And you're trying to pass that on to your team. You want your team to present themselves as they are because their imperfect version, their imperfect selves, adds value to the work you're doing. Sometimes it solves problems that you just couldn't solve any other way. And so you have to model this as a leader before you can expect this from other people. At the end of the day, that's what you got to do. And you got to leverage who you are, what you're doing, what you're working on in order for you to have the expectation of your team as well. So this is Dr. William Clark for Leadership Conversations. Hope you find this helpful. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and subscribe to us via your favorite podcast platform. And we'll talk to you in the next show. See you.